Fellas, ugh,
Uh-oh.
boy, yeah, uh-oh, uh-oh.
As soon as that first sound effect came out, I was like, "Yeah, I know what topic we about to go in." Uh-oh.
Oh, you know exactly what we get into. Champ, I'm gonna let you go first, because you've had a lot to say on TikTok, and I'm tired of this between LeBron and Stephen A. Smith, because LeBron went on Pat McAfee show. He talked about Stephen A. Smith. He talked about how Stephen A. is on this Taylor Swift tour. Stephen A. Smith responded. He said that he would have swung LeBron James if LeBron James tried to be physical with him. Last time I checked, LeBron James is 6'9", 250. Stephen A. Smith is about 6'1", a buck 80-ish. And I don't understand why Stephen A. Smith said it, other than the fact that he's just trying to get headlines and attention. Look, LeBron is not. Look, LeBron was wrong by putting the pressure on Bronny by tweeting and saying that Bronny's better than half of the league. And look, champ, you and I, we had this conversation. We had no problem with LeBron James confronting Stephen A. Smith. However, we do agree he could have handled it behind closed doors. But you told me before, hey, he's a father. And like any other father in that scenario, they would have done exactly the same thing when it comes to their kid, when someone is criticizing their kid. The biggest problem I had with Stephen A. Smith is when he mentioned LeBron not attending Kobe Bryant's funeral, when in fact that's a lie. It's been confirmed by reliable sources that LeBron James was actually at Kobe Bryant's memorial, and bringing up Dwayne Wade. Well, he wasn't at Dwayne Wade's Hall of Fame ceremony. To say that it was petty would be an enormous understatement. I'm sorry. Stephen A. Smith was downright pathetic. It was. Because, first of all, why are you bringing that up? What's the point of bringing up those two things? There's no relevancy to this. I have no problem with Stephen A. Smith criticizing an athlete, just like any of us would be criticizing an athlete as it pertains to their game. Look, LeBron made it clear. Hey, he said, I don't want any NBA team to draft my son. Let him come to the Lakers. No problem with that, because nepotism. Let's not act like nepotism hasn't happened before. Let's not act like it's unprecedented. So LeBron's going to have to accept criticism as it pertains to not only the basketball player, but also the GM, the basketball decisions and stuff like that. And listen, I agree with my man Broad Sports. Please go shout out to Broad Sports. Go check out his content and everything else. He said it himself, and I think he made a very valid point. He and LeBron and Stephen A., they're known for craving attention. Whether they'll admit it or not, they do love craving the attention. I just think it's embarrassing because two grown-ass men, LeBron's 40 years old, Stephen A. Smith in his 50s, it's kind of like two uncles getting into a fight at a barbecue or a cookout. That's just me going on some petty nonsense. Hey, but hey, that's I mean, I've seen it before. I've seen it with my own eyes, and y'all have seen it yourselves. I mean, you got a 40-year-old and LeBron James going at it with a 57-year-old and Stephen A. Smith, trying to act all street and stuff. Stephen A., the reason why you're acting like that is because A, you're trying to get clicks and headlines, and then on top of that, of course, you're behind the microphone. Would you have actually said it to LeBron James' face? Maybe you would, but I'm not sure it would work out for you well, because it's not just affect LeBron James' size. And look, when LeBron confronted you, of course, at the end of the day, you are a journalist, you are a reporter. Champ brings up a very key word when it comes to journalists and reporters: integrity. And Stephen A. Smith apparently has forgotten about that. And oh, by the way, Stephen A. Smith, you wouldn't have reacted that way. You know why? Because you got that 5-year, $100 million contract with ESPN. You are the face. And if you had done something, would you want to jeopardize or sabotage that contract? No, you wouldn't. You've been a damn fool to act foolish. Bottom line, in conclusion, two grown ass men acting like childs. And it's embarrassing because both of them want Bronny to do well, just like all of us want Bronny to do well. But how is Bronny gonna do well with this when he's seeing his father and Stephen A. Smith going back and forth? As far as with Stephen A. Smith getting on Pat McAfee, what you expect? LeBron James was in Indiana. Pat McAfee lives in Indiana, obviously because of his ties with the Indianapolis Colts. It's not every day he gets LeBron James to come on his show and talk. So I don't blame Pat McAfee for having LeBron come on the show and asking him these types of questions. That's why I love Pat McAfee. Even if he brings trifling ass Aaron Rodgers on his show, I want to hear what his guest and what Pat McAfee has to say. That's the point. It's
Oh,
entertainment, folks. And if your ass got a problem with that, then as far as I'm concerned, change the channel. Go watch something else. But to your point, champ, and you've said it before, where's the integrity for reporting and journalism? Because now it's just getting embarrassing. I don't know if ESPN are they gonna have a conversation with Stephen A. Smith at some point. I don't believe they're going to have a conversation with him now, unless it involves in a lawsuit. And if ESPN gets involved in that lawsuit, then at some point in time, they're going to have a conversation with Stephen A. Smith and say, Stephen, you're going too far. It's embarrassing. It's ridiculous. Like I said, two grown ass men fighting and acting like childs. They're acting like two people either at a cookout or a barbecue or two drunk dudes at a bar. That's all. I'm going to leave it at that. And I just hope it's a teaching moment for all of us. I got no problem with Stephen A. Smith or any member in the media criticizing Bronny as it pertains to his game, but it's gone too far. LeBron James deserves culpability because, again, when you say that your son is better than half of the league, you're putting a target on your son. Kind of like how LeVar Ball put a target on Lonzo when he said, put Steph Curry in UCLA, put my son at Golden State, and watch what my son can do. I just hate it because, and the other thing I hate, and no one has brought this up, but I will. Black men. See, because when we see black men arguing and debating with each other like that, is this the perception that people are going to view us? Is this is how people going to view and treat black people? Is this how the way they talk? Is this how the way they act? I just hate it. I just think it's embarrassing on so many levels. Again, LeBron, I got no problem confronting Stephen A. Smith. I felt like he should have handled it behind closed doors. Stephen A. Smith has a right to criticize players as it pertains to their game, but bringing up Kobe Bryant's memorial and LeBron missing Dwayne Wade's Hall of Fame ceremony, he went over the line. And I thought it was embarrassing. I thought it was a joke. I don't see ESPN at any point telling Stephen A. Smith to stop unless it involves in a lawsuit or anything legal. So whoever wants to go, bottom line, deep down, this is flat out fucking embarrassing.
hmm.
Oh man. You want to go first, BRF, or you want me to go?
You know what? Because I've been thinking about it too, and yeah, I do. I kind of want to kick this off. I mean, because it is embarrassing, and then like to kind of lighten it a little bit. I did like that analogy that you use, PSP, like the two old dudes at the cookout fighting. Can you and it, could you imagine that? Could you imagine that image? Just two old dudes at the cookout, both got the cigarettes in their mouth, barely hanging on, and they just fussing at each other for no reason. And then they start to fussing, and then they start swinging, and both of them just ain't hitting nothing but air. And then they both fall down at the end of the day, and they didn't solve nothing at the end of the day. That's LeBron and Stephen A. Smith. That's pretty much what all this is. Fighting for no reason. Ain't nobody hitting each other. Ain't nobody hitting each other at all. That's what this is. That's all this is. But to get that out the way, It's highly embarrassing just from the standpoint of there's when a situation like this occurs, there's never a winner. There's never a winner. No matter what is said, no matter what thrown, no matter what stone is thrown, unturned, it doesn't matter. There's never a winner because you can nitpick and you can just pick out certain ways in arguments and statements and stuff like this where each one are just wrong. Like starting like with LeBron, for instance, like he made a point of for like I didn't like him calling out Brian Windhurst the way he did. I did not like him calling him out at the end. I did not like him calling out Brian Windhurst because he said it himself. And I saw this, somebody was talking about it. I think Stephen A was talking about this. This is where Stephen A did make a good point. No one has covered, followed, reported on LeBron James more than Brian Windhurst. And Brian Windhurst has been covering that man since his junior year of high school. It's been covering him since his junior year of high school. So nobody knows the ins and outs better than him. And it's like, bro, like you said it yourself. Don't get on Pat McAfee's show with your chest puffed out, trying to be all tough and hard and big and bad, trying to call this man weird, talking about like best friend, like he, consider himself a best friend and all that stuff is weird. It's like that ain't the point, man. Nobody's covered you more than him. So I'm pretty sure he has a clear understanding. He might not he's not psychoanalyzing you by any stretch of the means, but at the same time, he's covered you more than any other reporter since you were birthed into existence when you were at St. Vincent St. Mary's. And I didn't like him calling him out like that because nobody's defended that man more than Brian Windhurst either. Nobody's defended that man more than him. So he was very wrong calling him out. And then like Bron has to understand. I was defending him about the whole, and I think we honestly were about the whole nepotism thing and people trying to make a big deal about, Bronny getting drafted and he took a spot from other deserving players. And I'm thinking to myself, Bronny was the 55th pick of the 2024 NBA draft. I want y'all to answer me this. Whose spot at 55 were we really waiting to see drafted before Bronny James? Who were we waiting on that late in the draft? We weren't waiting on nobody that late in the draft. Weren't waiting on nobody at all. So I was defending him from the standpoint of like, why y'all sit there talking about some? He took a spot from a deserving player. From who? In the late second round. From who? Who are y'all really getting on your high horse, ready to buy some popcorn, ready to buy some box office tickets to see drafted in the late second round? The only reason why y'all up on your high horse and getting all upset about it is because it's LeBron James' son. And nepotism is all the time, whether it's in the front office, whether it's coaching, whether it's other players. It happens so often in sports. And it upset me that we got on LeBron and Bronny because it's like, why are y'all making this a big deal out of it now when it happens all the time? And nobody just put nearly the fire into it as y'all doing here. So it's like I was kind of defending him on that because it wasn't necessarily fair to jump on. We know it's nepotism. We know this, but we're not gonna sit here and try to jump all down his throat when it happens all the time. And sometimes in crazier situations, but it just like it's Bron. But this is what I'll say though: LeBron has to understand that even though we defended him from that perspective, it's still there. So if the criticism's going to come Bronny James' way, whether you like it or you don't. And yes, as a father, we're gonna defend. That's I got a daughter, and she's growing. She wants to do stuff like she wants to get into dance. She wants to get into cheerleading. She wants to do stuff like that. I bet you best believe. You best believe. If somebody getting my daughter any type of way, like she taking a spot from somebody, oh, I'm all in there. Yeah, most definitely. I'm going to say something to defend her. But in this case, we know what the situation is, so you have to understand that the criticism is going to come. You have to be able, as long as he's been in the league, and as long as he's dealt with so much criticism and so much hate and so much disrespect, he should have known that all this was going to come. And he could have, even though he was, I completely understand him going at Stephen A. Smith and speaking on him man to man. He should have done it in a private setting instead of just bringing the cameras and the attention on him. He could have handled that a lot better and a lot more private. And honestly, we might not be discussing about this as much because you would think two grown men like this can sit down, iron out their differences, whether you apologize or whether you apologize to each other, agree to disagree. At the end of the day, we two grown men, we talk it out, we shake it out, we shake it off, handshake, keep it pushing. And especially and PSP, you brought up another great point. Black men in this as well. The fact that Stephen A. Smith is like really been one of those over the past few years, like as far as just like the debate shows and the sports media era and all this stuff, social media era, and he's really kind of, I don't want to necessarily say trailblazer, but like an innovator in a sense, you know what I mean? And like opening up avenues and stuff for like guys like us to be sitting here on a Friday night, 9:35 p.m. Eastern time, doing what we love to do, talking sports and talking sports topics. Just opening up doors for guys like us to come and do what we want to do. And it's like these opportunities were nowhere near a long time ago, and now they're there. And they shouldn't want those on the outside analyzing us, judging us. Should we give him an opportunity to look at what these two are doing? Because whenever something goes wrong with one or two, what happens? We all get lumped in. We all get lumped in. It never fails. But that's why I say Braun got to understand the criticism is going to come. It's going to come. Because at the end of the day, whether he likes it or not, we understand the situation. We know what went on. We know Braun wanted his son there. The Lakers made it happen. We know what was up. We know what was up, but we understand. That's a father wanting to be there for his son. That's a father wanting his son with him. We completely understand. I'm not about to sit here and get on this man for wanting his son close to him in a setting like the NBA where there are sharks everywhere that are ready to eat, that are ready to pounce on you. The first possible chance they get, they ready to get on you. We know that, so we completely understand. All this is just shining a negative light on it, and they don't need that. And as far as the Stephen A. Smith side of the thing, the pettiness is stupid. It's stupid and it's unwarranted and it's unnecessary. Like the LeBron, you weren't there at Kobe's memorial. For one, if you're gonna talk about somebody, don't lie. Do not lie. But come on, man. Everybody know LeBron went to that thing. Everybody know LeBron was there. I mean, why would he not go? At this point right now, he is the face of he is the current face of the Los Angeles Lakers. Why would he not be there to be with people honoring the life of the former face of the Los Angeles Lakers? Why would he not be there to honor somebody like Kobe Bryant? Why would he not be there? That would make no sense from the jump. It was completely irrelevant from the situation that they're going on now. You don't bring nothing like that up to make anybody look bad. And then you lied on top of that. That makes you look even worse. Even worse. You being one of, if not the face of ESPN, that puts such a light on you, and the fact that they gave you that big freaking contract. They gave,
Not to
they man,
mention,
they gave.
not
Go
to
ahead, PSP.
mention, not to mention, he's a journalist. And again, when you're a journalist, you always got to report the truth. Because again, if
And
you lie, especially the way that Stephen A. did it, people gonna start questioning your integrity.
exactly. And the great, I'm still in the movie quote, and people could say all they want to. It fits. Scarface, legendary Al Pacino, Tony Montana. I'm gonna try to get his voice, but here we go. The only two things I got in this world are my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. I mean, come on, man. That's integrity. That's being a man and living up to your word. Stephen A. Smith doing something like that ain't integral at all. In the least bit. You don't call out anybody like that to be petty. I don't care what you trying to do. I don't care what type of agenda you trying to push. That right there, you do not do. Because you calling out another man's manhood, you calling out another man's integrity, you calling out another man's reputation, and you lying on top of that only makes you look that much worse. And and I'm talking about he better have shot that tweet out. He better have shot that apology out, which he did. And kudos to him for that. But honestly, you almost were at a point where that tweet even still would have been too late because you literally trying to damage another man's reputation for your feelings being hurt. You don't do that. You don't do that. Like I said, all this could have been handled in more of a private manner where whether you agree to disagree, apologize to each other, you shake hands and you keep it pushing. At the end of the day, you two grown men, you in the sports world, you trying to make a living, you trying to get this money. LeBron still being one of the best players in the world. Stephen A. Smith being one of the more recognizable faces in the journalism world. You trying to get this money. We can talk about attention and all this other stuff. At the end of the day, what it's about. We trying to recoup here. At the end of the day, we do this so we can get so we doing this so one day to get a break so we can get ours. Y'all are getting y'all's now. Y'all are getting y'all's now. You better keep making it happen because you best believe these high-end companies, these high-end corporations, you don't think they'll take from you the first chance you get when they feel like you messing up and you ain't contributing to their brand? They don't. What? Come on, man. They're not worried about you being Stephen A. Smith. They're not worried about you being LeBron James. They will thank you for your future endeavors and keep it pushing. They ain't worried about that. They worry about people that can make money for them, but not make them look bad. And Stephen A. Smith, he's treading the line with this one. Because if anything, because like you said, you brought it up, PSP, lawsuits, anything like that, ESPN ain't worried about you being Stephen A. Smith. They will pull you to the side and say, look here, you either calm this down or you can hit the road just as quick as we brought you in and gave you that big money. ESPN is about an image and they're about a brand and their own rights, and they're not going to let anybody, regardless of your name value, damage it. No matter how many viewers you bring to the table, no matter how much money you bring to the brand, they will kick you. They will kick you quicker than a New York minute and will smile and keep it pushing while you gone. They're not worried about that. So that's what I'm looking at. So that's why I'm looking at it from both perspectives. Because at the end of the day, y'all got to do better. This whole situation has just been unnecessary and unwarranted. And the fact that we're doing this about a 20-year-old kid who got drafted with the 55th pick of the second round of the NBA draft is one of the more baffling situations I have seen in years.
Yep.
And it's crazy. And at some point, they need to draw a line. They can't let this get worse. For their sake, they better not let this get worse, or the consequences could be money costing, particularly on Stephen A. Smith's part. So he better find a way to level this out now, or he might just have to stick with podcasts because ESPN ain't gonna have him on no more.
Yeah. Before I let Champ go, and I also want to make one point. Shout out to our guy Dennis Holmes from the Ignorant Sports Podcast. Also check him out on Stay Tuned Live podcast. Yo, fan, he said Disney don't play. No, especially they do not play at all. The reason why I have a problem, before I let Champ go, the reason why I have a serious problem with Stephen A. Smith bringing up LeBron not attending Kobe's memorial in which he lied. Why? First of all, even if LeBron James missed the memorial or did not attend the memorial, is there any shame to that? No. And the reason why is people grieve differently. People cannot handle funerals or memorials or things like that. So if LeBron James, even if he missed the memorial or something like that, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I don't think Champ would have had a problem with it. Neither would BRF, neither would any rational person. So why bring that up? What's the point in all of this to bring up someone missing a memorial? Like, because someone missed a memorial or a funeral, there has to be shame to that? Maybe because they just can't handle that type of situation. And honestly, I don't blame them. If someone that I know that I love and respected passed away, it'd be hard as hell for me to go into that funeral because I'm afraid how I'm gonna react, how I'm gonna respond. People gonna look at me and ask, "What the hell's going on with him? Is he okay?" I that was the other problem that I had. But champ, the floor is yours.
Do y'all know? Do y'all realize how many how many missed opportunities that the ESPN is missing because of this one no story? Because there's really a no story at this point. Do you realize that we have the potential to see two very good small market teams in the NBA Finals at this point? In Cleveland and Oklahoma City?
Oh, I saw that list of stuff that you sent me in which they could have
Yes.
talked about champ, and
Yes.
instead of that, they disregarded it.
Yes. We could be talking about Kawhi Leonard making an epic comeback. We could be talking about the ramifications of what could happen as far as Giannis staying in Milwaukee because Dame is out with the blood clots. Houston is in second place in the Western Conference.
10 out of their 11 won 10 out of their last 11 games.
Thank you.
Memphis, they just fired Taylor Jenkins. We could have talked
Yes.
about that.
The Lakers are in fourth place. The Lakers are in fourth place.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if Giannis is going to, because he said something at the beginning of the year. I don't think people is realizing. He said, if I don't win this year, I think I'm going to be traded. So we got all of these stories that we can be talking about, not to mention the MVP race, because people still think that it's neck and neck between SGA and Jokic. Because just when SGA has a hell of a game, guess what? Jokic comes back and have an incredible game. So it's still a toss-up. Although SGA is leading the league in scoring at this point by a mile, I think. So those are the articles that we could have talked about, today, yesterday, building up. And what's hurting the NBA is lack of story. Lack of story. Those are the stories that we could have talked about. Instead, we're talking about this nonsense between two millionaires, mega millionaires. Now, I'm going to just be real. Piggybacking on you and BRF's point about LeBron not attending Kobe's memorial. There was an article written by Sports Illustrated that said that because, LeBron requested not to be recorded during that time. There was an article written in 2020 right after that funeral because rumor had it that he wasn't there, but come to find out, he just requested not to be recorded.
It was an emotional mess.
Yes. And that article specifically stated, Kobe's funeral is not about LeBron James. That article was written in 2020. And they were absolutely correct in that assessment. What does him going or not going to a funeral have to do with basketball? That is not your job. And even if he didn't go there, can you imagine? Let's just put real life in front. Can you imagine me going out here after the show one day and me going out there, let's just say getting a hot dog. I get shot in the head or something like that. I get on the live. Can you imagine somebody talking about, well, PSP and BRF wasn't at Stefan's funeral? Who cares? I've been doing shows with these guys for almost 2-3 years. I don't know how they're going to react. My family doesn't know how they're going to react. So what does that have to do with anything? You're bringing up irrelevant things like you wasn't at the Dwayne Wade stuff. It's kind of like you getting into an argument with your girlfriend and she bringing up stuff from the past. It's like, yeah, I didn't tell you about them times you didn't wash the dishes. Every time I come in here, I remember you left the microwave on high yesterday. What relevance does that have today? What is this about? As far as people getting onto LeBron James about this, about, saying that his son is better than a lot of guys in the NBA. Look, just gonna be real. I'm gonna just put some personal stuff out there. When I was doing MMA and boxing from the time I was like 15 to I was about 25 years old, and then I kept boxing into, hey, my father used to call me Rashad Evans. At times he would see me hitting the bag because he had a bag. Him and my mom had a bag at their house. He used to come out there and call me Baby Tyson, even at the age of 25 years old. So I don't have no problem with a father believing that his son can do anything. And guess what? He's proven that he can do it. The guys who was drafted in the second round, what are they doing right about now, even in the G League? Not one thing. In fact, half of them averaging less than 9 points. So I don't have any problem with him saying that I believe my son can do anything. That's his job as a father, to be encouraging, to be uplifted, to say a lot of great things about his son. You really think, to bring up, what PSP brought up earlier, you really think my father's not talking about me right now where he works at? So, and I'm 37 years old. So I don't have no problem with him saying that. The problem I have is when people try to blow it out of proportion. What father is not going to say that? What father is not going to say, hey, my son is great. My daughter is great. We don't get on to know. I mean, what is it about? What we're getting away from, and we got to do a better job of doing this, and I'm guilty of this myself, we got to get out of this drama crap when it comes to sports. We got to get out of it. Because the thing is, it's not doing anything but hurting the sport of basketball. That's the thing it's hurting, the sport of basketball. When we talk about the NFL, we don't talk about no doggone drama. We talk about the stats. We talk about MVP races. Who has the potential to win the Super Bowl, free agency. We talking about the stuff that matters. We're not looking at some drama, looking to try to pull a story out of our behind, unless it pertains to something like what we was talking about last week with Antonio Brown quitting on his team, with T.O. yelling at somebody on the sideline, when Dez Bryant was yelling at someone, Tom Brady, something like that, that could potentially cause a disruption in the locker room or something like that. That's when you start bringing up the drama. But this is nothing like that. This is the media versus the player. And it should not be like that. And I commend Brian Windhurst for saying one thing and one thing only. LeBron doesn't owe me anything. He's done a hell of a lot for me. He's done a hell of a lot for his community. He's done a hell of a lot for the city of Cleveland. LeBron owes me nothing, and I will continue to support him. That's how you take the high road as a reporter. And look, although LeBron was kind of petty about it, LeBron has been silent about a lot of criticism that he's been receiving from Skip Bayless, from Charles Barkley, from a little bit of everybody for almost 22 years. He's been silent. He's never responded. He's never retaliated. He's never said a word. You ain't never seen him on a sports show. You saw him on the barbershop, his own show. But he's never retaliated or attacked the media the way that he's attacking them right now. In the great words of Nas, I let this stuff slide for too many years. So when I don't respond for 22 years after you've been attacking me, attacking not only me, but spreading rumors about my family, because this ain't the first rumor. This ain't the first time we heard about LeBron James and his family. This isn't the first time, not what was spoken of, but this is the first time we've heard about LeBron James and his family.
Oh, we've heard countless.
Yes. So I've let everything slide for so many years. Now all of a sudden I snap and pop. Now all of a sudden I'm the bad guy. To heck with you. See, the thing is, everybody, everybody's so quick to pick up their phone and record a response, but they don't tell you what they did before that. You're talking about how I'd have swung on them, or for what? It would have been a one-hit or quitter. Him hitting you and you hitting the ground.
Facts.
So, I mean, is Stephen A, I don't even trust you around me, even at my even past my prime right now. I don't trust you around me. Don't stop painting these illusions about yourself that you. The problem with social media is this. It's made people feel way too important than what they really are, and made them feel a little bit too comfortable with not being busted in the mouth. Can you imagine if Stephen A would have said something like that to Charles Oakley back in the day?
His ass would have gone whooped.
Can you imagine him saying something like that to, let's say, Anthony Mason?
Or Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley would have probably thrown him out the window.
Exactly. So people have gotten way too comfortable, especially some of these reporters, in crossing the line. Because back in the day, you'd have got chin checked. All of those players that I just named, Charles Oakley, even Bill Cartwright. Remember what he told Jordan? You ever speak to me like that ever again in front of people, you'll never play basketball again because I'll break both your legs. This is documented. So the thing is, social media has made a lot of these reporters way too bold, and they're way too comfortable with getting personal. Talk about the stats. Talk about what he can do as a ball player. Talk about what he can do as a mentor in order to help his team better. Talk about his potential run at the finals. Like I said, Brian Windhurst, even before that tweet came out where he said LeBron doesn't owe him anything, he said, I hold accountability on both ends. The media and the players can do a lot better with holding each other accountable. That's how you approach things as a journalist. And people can call it glazing. People can call it whatever they want. But he had a valid point. We as sports journalists need to get back to talking about the darn sport. We need to talk about the darn sport. It's already suffering in ratings at this point. It's already suffering in viewership at this point. It's suffering among the collective consciousness at this point. And we're sitting around here talking about two grown millionaires arguing amongst each other. And not only that, the media, that being Stephen A, is the antagonist in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to end it on this note. Y'all probably old enough to remember. Y'all remember KRS-One and MC Shan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do y'all remember the DVD called Beef?
Yes.
Yes. You remember how he said that MC Shan could have won that battle between him and KRS? You remember what KRS said? That the one thing that could have lost me that battle forever, and you never would have heard from me ever again, there wouldn't have been 13 albums, there wouldn't have been a Stop the Violence rally, there wouldn't have been nothing. Do you know how he said that MC Shan could have won that battle?
I can't remember. I've seen it, but I can't remember.
He said, and I quote, MC Shan could have won that battle between me and Boogie Down Production simply by ignoring me and keep creating good music, because MC Shan could make good music. He said MC Shan could have won that beat simply by ignoring me. And you would have, and if he ignored me, you would have never heard of KRS-One ever again. That's what Stephen A could have did. Simply ignored it. Somebody check you at the game about something. Hey man, that's a private matter. Not even going to address it. That has nothing to do with basketball and what we cover here. Done. This is not even a story. This is not even a story. It's kind of like PSP telling me about, hey, champ, man, cut out all of the funnies all the time on the show. And I get on the show, man, hey, man, PSP told me to cut out all the funnies. But don't nobody want to hear that shit. Shut up. Don't nobody want to hear that. If somebody told you something, even if it's in front of somebody, How many times have one of our brothers, our sisters, or anything like that checked us in a public setting? And then you just go on about your business after that. That's what that was. You didn't have to go on this whole world tour about what he said and blah, 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 blah. Oh, it's a private matter, man. You know, we talked it out after the fact. That's done. Let's get to what we need to cover, and that's sports. That's the Houston Rockets. That's Ime Udoka leading another team to contention outside of Boston. Hell, we could
Possibly coach of the year.
yeah.
Defensive player of the year.
Yeah. And then, you know, we could possibly even, and can you imagine? I don't think anybody's brought this up. Can you imagine if we see the Houston Rockets in Boston in the NBA Finals?
Cinema
To the highest level. Not to mention the history that the Houston has against the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals. They've never beaten them. So those are the things that we need to be talking about. Instead, Stephen A. wanted to run his mouth. And guess what? We're sitting on this Friday, the highlight of Friday nights, talk about what a journalist is not doing and what's supposed to be doing, rather than talking about all of the things that we're supposed to be talking about. And that is important.
Exactly. Now we got to sit here and hear Stephen A. Smith talking about how he would have swung on Braun. Now we got to watch them ugly. Now we got to watch them ugly training videos of Stephen A. Smith, knowing he ain't gonna bust a grape in a fruit fight.
But that's the thing, though. And the only reason why the NBA, they don't really care about this matter, because whether they'll admit it or not, they're interested in getting ratings. Because BRF champ, we talk about this all the time. Don't you find it ironic? We talk more about the NFL than we actually talk about with the NBA. Even though the season has been over for about a month and a half now, we still talking about the NFL trades. We still talking about the NFL moves. We still talking about free agency. We still talking about the draft. And to me, NBA, ESPN, they look thirsty. They look desperate, because it doesn't matter, because regardless, we're going to do whatever we can to get ratings. And what better way than to have the face of the NBA in LeBron James, or arguably, because you can argue Giannis or anybody else, going up against the face of ESPN in Stephen A. Smith.
You know,
and like I said, no, it's all good. Like I said, they're acting like two drunks at a bar right now, or the two uncles at a cookout and a barbecue arguing over some foolishness.
You know what's sad? It is sad that this happens. And correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, y'all, my guys, y'all can check me. It is sad when Angel Reese, throughout the offseason, outside of Unrivaled, has received more attention than the NBA has.
You ain't wrong.
Good or bad, it is sad when Angel Reese, the WNBA season hasn't even begun, and her winning Defensive Player of the Year in Unrivaled is more headline news than even her wearing a dress, her going to Met Gala, her starting her podcast. It is sad when that is top news. Like I said, whether it's love or hate, it is sad when people are pulling stories out of their behinds. All the blog sites are pulling stories out of their behind, talking about Angel Reese doing the peak of basketball season. And guess what? It's still getting more attention than the NBA at this point. Like I said, good attention or bad attention, she still has those eyes on her constantly. And it is crazy when you think about that she, in the off season of her sport, is getting more attention. I mean, and like I said, if you don't believe me, look at all of the blog sites. Look at how they try to nitpick her on the podcast. Look at how they was talking about her wearing the dress. Look at how even when she won Defensive Player of the Year in Unrivaled, people still had something to say. People were still talking about her, even when she went to her brother's basketball game last night, People were still trying to say something about how Stan Van Gundy stated that her and her brother were excellent rebounders rather than saying they were great players. She is getting more headlines right now than the entire NBA did outside of this conflict with Stephen A. and LeBron James. And that is flat out sad.
It is,
I,
champ.
I,
Go ahead, BRF.
real quick, I just saw a tweet, and I got to shout out. I am so happy to see Kawhi Leonard making this comeback that he's doing right now. They just posted a stat line because the Clippers won again tonight. Blew, I think they played Brooklyn. I mean, it's Brooklyn. Blew the doors off them. The Clippers are 10-2, I believe, since the All-Star break. Kawhi Leonard is averaging 25, 7, 4 assists, 2 steals, 51% shooting from the field, 44% from 3. I'm talking like has found his groove again. And we're talking about this.
It's embarrassing. We're talking more about Juju in college basketball. Now, obviously, because of March Madness and stuff, but we're talking about this more than we've talked about the NBA. We're talking about trades and stuff in the NBA. And another thing, I'm shocked that y'all didn't bring this up with the NBA. The Detroit Pistons turnaround. Because at one point, remember how many games they lost consecutively?
Oh my God. You had Kyle Kuzma talking about don't be that team. Don't be that team. Now they're like the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference.
And no one has talked about the head coaching job.
He's a lock for coach of the year. JB Bickerstaff, he's locked. Just mail coach of the year to Detroit right now because it's his.
Especially who was your predecessor in Monty Williams, who went there obviously for the bag, but with the talent that he had last year, they were horrible. Now with JB Bickerstaff with this team, my God. And there are a lot of other things we could have talked about with the NBA. We could have talked about Jimmy Butler's return to Miami, in which Miami beat the brakes out of Golden State. There are far more fascinating things, but what it seems to me, ESPN is looking like the VH1 right now of sports. They're interested in drama. It's like Love and Hip Hop.
Well said.
I mean, damn. If I want to get that type of attention and fighting, I want to see Jim Cornette going up against Vince Russo. I don't need to see. I don't need to see LeBron and Stephen A. Smith going at it with each other. And we're missing the point of sports. I thought sports was for something for all of us, a sanctuary, somewhere where we can just go, just watch the game, talk, have a good time and stuff. We can't even talk about that now. In ESPN, what does it say about you? It seems to me you're more interested, regardless of ratings. Heck, champ, I sent you the article. ESPN Sports Center LA, they're moving on and they're going back to the old headquarters back in Bristol, Connecticut. So this is just embarrassing. It's ridiculous. It's really unfortunate for Bronny because, again, we should be talking about Bronny's game, but we're talking about something that is far more embarrassing, in which is LeBron and Stephen A. are acting like fools. They're acting like fools in this situation, and it's just embarrassing. At some point in time, look, does somebody from their inner circle need to step in and say enough? Because I don't think ESPN, like I said, they're probably not going to do anything about it unless they're involved in a legal situation. Is LeBron or someone in Stephen A's inner circle going to step in and say enough? Y'all said what y'all said. It's enough. Let's move on. Let's get to it with sports. Let's go back to that because we've forgotten about that. And it's just embarrassing. And to your point, champ, you brought up with Angel Reese. As controversial Angel Reese is, we talk more about her. We're even talking about more about her improvement with her play. Fairness to her, she spent a lot of time working with the great Lisa Leslie, and we're talking about all this stuff. It's just embarrassing. It's just unfortunate. Um, and I hope it's just a teaching moment for all of us. And like I
Mhm.
said, the reason why it's embarrassing, and because I brought it up, I'll bring it up again. Black men. I thought we were better than this.
And especially considering all that crap that Stephen A talked against Will Smith after he, slapped
And
Chris
you
Rock.
replicating the same thing.
And you know you're doing worse. Cause you know why? Chris Rock didn't say a word. He didn't say a word until his comedy special came out. He didn't say not one word until his comedy, and that was the first time and the last time that you heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew that he was going to come out with a comedy special about it eventually. And he spent maybe 16, maybe 20 minutes on it and then, hey, moved on. And nobody has ever heard about the slap from Chris Rock nor Will Smith since. But Stephen A. during that time, he was the main one criticizing. You are embarrassment to the community because Will Packer, he was producing the Grammys, and you go up there acting like, look what you're doing. You're over here embarrassing yourself over the air raid, talking about you was going to swing on somebody. Bro, Stephen A., if that video is any indication of any way that you could swing on somebody, I wouldn't even let you in the amateurs at this point. Stick to T-ball. Because I'm going to just be real. That ain't going to cut it. You talking about you for the swing on an athlete, and I know he debunked this rumor LeBron did, that spends thousands on keeping his body in shape. And is built like a tight end. Don't press your luck, my friend. Because like I said, had it been back in the day, you would have walked up on anybody else and they would have checked you. You would have been quiet as a mouse on Tuesday in a church. If that were Charles Oakley, Charles Barkley, Anthony Mason, or any of those old school players, if you would have said, if any one of those would have said anything, you would have kept it P and you would have kept it moving. But since you want to draw attention to yourself, you keep going on and on and on. Even after you criticize Will Smith about, hitting Chris Rock about something. Like I said, once that was done, it was done. You made that into a story. You made it about race. You made it about black people. It making black people look bad. Now look what you're doing.
Well said. I think Stephen A. Smith needs to practice what he preaches. Bottom line, for those who want to comment, please leave your comments in the comment section below. What are y'all thoughts about the whole LeBron, Stephen A. Smith situation? Like I said, all of us made great points. This is just embarrassing. Bottom line, it should stop. We just need to get back into sports. And I just hope everyone learned a valuable lesson in all of this. Bottom line.